Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Devidi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the recent attacks on civilians by terrorist group in Jammu and Kashmir. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains papers. Let's begin with the topics of discussion. These are the topics that we are going to discuss step by step, starting with the news. So, the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir and the Home Minister are going to have a meeting with respect to the recent killings and targeted killings of minorities in Jammu and Kashmir, and they are going to take all of the options that are available. So that we are going to discuss over here is that certain issues are pertaining to Jammu and Kashmir with respect to the targeted killing of minorities by the group. These targeted killings are trying to send a message to the government and to the general populace that the region belongs to a certain community. The region does not want to abide by the Indian Constitution, and the region is not safe for any economic advancement. Let's move forward and talk about this news that Shah Faisal, the 2010 cadre IAS officer, is going to be approved as an advisor to the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir is a region where it is very important for the local communities to be integrated, and Shah Faisal might serve as the face of the government when we talk about that integration is important. Shah Faisal, he joined the IAS in 2010. He resigned in the year 2019 and had his own party for which he was the president. And abruptly, after that, a certain point of time, he just went off the picture of politics, and now it is being said that he is going to likely to be approved as an advisor. So he might help in making Kashmir more secure and safe. Let's move forward and talk about this news piece that many pundits move out and Sikhs are worried as Kashmir minorities fear return of 1990 after killings. A very prominent and known pharmacist of Kashmir, Makhanlal Bindru, he was shot dead. His stay in Kashmir was an example to many Kashmiri pundits who wanted to come back to Kashmir. He survived the violence in the 1990s, and he was a very well-known and a very prominent philanthropist of Kashmir. After he was gunned down, the aspirations of many Kashmiri pundits were also gunned down along with him. To school teachers who went to teach in Kashmir with the help of the government-backed policies to make Kashmir more advanced and having more employment opportunities in Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370, they were also gunned down. One belonged to the Sikh community, the other belonged to the Pandit community. So what are these killings trying to tell us? That is what we are going to discuss. Let's move forward and talk about the current scenario. These are targeted killings, and the targeted killings are taking place with the sense that the purpose is to draw response from the government, any sort of response that might bring Kashmir into a broiling stage again. Kashmir is in a state of flux since so many years, and targeting minorities by a certain group, as I have already discussed, is going to send a lot of message that the region is not normalized. It's a delusion. It has brought out the deep fault lines in the Kashmir policy. Maybe this is what the group wants to tell. 23 civilians in the past couple of months have been killed. Civilians are a soft target right now, and especially for the smaller groups, the smaller terrorist groups, which have aspirations to grow into a larger group. They start with civilians. So the civilians have been killed. They are soft targets. They can be switched over very easily, and the message is loud. Minorities are not safe in Kashmir. This is what the group wants to tell. Minorities do not have any economic opportunities. Minorities do not have any social integration. The social fabric of Kashmir is homogeneous in nature. That is what the group is trying to tell us. Then response from the state, as it is known to the state that we have a dilemma. The strategy is very ambiguous when it comes to Kashmir. strategy is not a well clear cut out black and white strategy. It's a grey strategy. If the strategy has weapons such as airstrikes, it is going to take a toll on the life of the masses, the innocent masses, children, the innocent masses, women and innocent men. Something like that happened when the US struck in Afghanistan in the last couple of months. What has happened? Civilians were killed. So that is the first dilemma. Second, if they go softer with respect to Kashmir on this stage, at this stage, is it going to give a lot of air to the aspirations of different terrorist groups, which have been emboldened, of course, by the US's move to go out of Afghanistan without any political settlement? Moving on, external factors are always prominent in Kashmir, and this external factor has a name, Pakistan. Pakistan is trying to put all sorts of strategies with respect to the terrorist groups in Kashmir, providing moral, material, ideological support. The support is paving way for many terrorist groups to have sanctuaries in Pakistan, and through Pakistan illegally occupied Kashmir, they are trying to strike terror into the hearts of the common people. Moving on, let's talk about a brief history of Kashmir. Since the year 1846, by the Treaty of Amritsar, British and the Dogra dynasty came into a pact that in return of rupees 75 lakhs to the British government, as a princely state, Jammu and Kashmir will be under the Dogra dynasty till the year 1947. As many princely states after partition did not want to integrate either with India or Pakistan, they wanted to be independent. They wanted independence in the sense that their rules should be carried on and it should serve as a sovereignty to them. Like Junagadh also did the same. Kashmir also wanted to have a standstill agreement, and it did not want to join Pakistan or India. It wanted to remain independent unless and until a plebiscite is conducted in the near future. So a standstill agreement was signed by Maharaja Hari Singh of the Dogra dynasty with Pakistan and India respectively. And it was agreed upon that the area of Jammu and Kashmir, it will remain independent till a plebiscite is conducted. The problem was the heterogeneity with respect to the general populace was majority in Muslim, but the ruler was Hindu. And he did not want to integrate either with India or Pakistan. Junagadh, the ruler wanted to integrate with Pakistan. A plebiscite was conducted. The general populace wanted to be integrated with the Union of India, so it happened. But plebiscite back then in Kashmir was highly in favor of India. If it would have been conducted in Kashmir, it was highly in favor of India. But this was known by Pakistan. Pakistan did know that it will go into the favor of India if a plebiscite was conducted. But they could not take it. Pakistan could not take defeat here. In the year 1947, with the help of Pashtun tribes, 1947-48, they intruded into the territory of Kashmir. That means they did not respect the standstill agreement. And because of that, an instrument of accession was signed between Maharaja Hari Singh and the Indian government that in order for India to defend Jammu and Kashmir against Pakistan, the region should come into an agreement through the instrument of accession with India to provide a union of Jammu and Kashmir with India, and a plebiscite would be conducted. Although Pakistani-backed Pashtun tribes were driven out, they still were able to remain in a certain region, and this is that region. Pakistan illegally administered Kashmir. Because why we call it illegally administered? Because according to the instrument of accession and standstill agreement, Pakistan shouldn't have ever attacked Kashmir. Again, instrument of accession, it talks about the entire region belonging to India. And India would have conducted a plebiscite, but it was not, the status quo was changed. The entire status quo was changed by Pakistan. And after that, India brought the issue to the UN, and rest is history. We know how the issue, which could have been solved back then, it was touted as a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. And what happened is history, yet I will try to tell you that according to the UN resolution, Pakistan is an aggressor in this region. Pakistan needs to back off from this region, and India also should take out its armies from here and conduct a plebiscite. Now, India was ready to conduct a plebiscite when Pakistan would have complied with the norms that it should move away from the territory. It did not happen, and the Kashmir region is entirely in flux since then, 1947. So this is the entire issue. Now, after that, in 1950s, the region of Kashmir, also known as Aksai Chin, the Chinese illegally administered Kashmir, Chinese started intruding in this area. And after 1962, they were able to carve out a large part. Not only that, this region, which was earlier administered by Pakistan illegally occupied administration, it was illegally occupied by Pakistan, and the illegal occupation of this region, what did Pakistan do? Pakistan ceded this territory to China. And here is the Siachen Glacier. That is why this region is so important. Our soldiers remain very vigilant over here. So it's like I steal an iPhone from somebody and I gift that iPhone to somebody else. So it's like that what Pakistan has done. And as you can see, right now we have a region which we call it Jammu and Kashmir. This region, and this is known as illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which Pakistan calls Azad Kashmir. And this is the illegally occupied Chinese region. So this is something I hope you knew, but I still tried to make you understand. So as you can see, this is from the geographical perspective, Karakoram range, Ladakh range. This is the Karakoram Pass. Aksai Chin, the yellow area, and this is not the Indian narrative I'm trying to tell you. This is just from the explanatory point of view. We have this entire area under standstill agreement and instrument of accession. It's a bilateral issue. It is not an international issue where UN can come in and try to have its own way. Any other country, not UN, any other country cannot have anything to say, and this has been agreed upon by India and Pakistan. In which agreement? Can you tell me in the comment segment? So this is the entire region, just trying to make you understand what is the point of view in general. And this is the Karakoram range, Karakoram Pass, Siachen Glacier and Shaksam Valley. Okay, remember that. And Ladakh range is here. This is Chorbatla and here is Kargil. This is Leh, Srinagar and Jammu. Okay, I hope you know. So as on the signing of the instrument of accession and standstill agreement, this entire region came under the Dogra dynasty. Alright, let's move forward and talk about the Article 370. Article 370, 371, 35A, these all gave a special status to Kashmir. And by the Article 370, the special status was such that it had its own constitution. The Constitution of India, certain articles were not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. It also had its own legislature, its own constituent assembly. It had its own demarcations when we talk about who are the residents, who are considered as residents, the outsiders, the residents of or non-Kashmiris, whoever did not reside in Kashmir did not have any right to property, to buy any property in Kashmir. So everything was given. But in 2019 it was abrogated. And because of that, two different union territories were created, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Jammu and Kashmir, by the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019, had a legislature, remember, and the union territory of Ladakh did not. Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir had a legislature, Union territory of Ladakh did not. Okay, certain provisions we can see from here. I hope it's important for you to understand. Jammu and Kashmir, after Article 370 is revoked, what happened? Special status gone. There is no dual citizenship. Earlier there was dual citizenship. Central laws can directly apply, not with the help of any other institution. No separate laws for Jammu and Kashmir. Indian citizens from other states can buy property. No two flags. Special status was there. Elections every 5 years. Center can declare financial emergency under Article 360 and police will be managed by the center. So this was the entire crux. Also, if we talk about the scenario with respect to the violence in Kashmir, pre and post Article 370, this is something for you to understand. As you can see, militant killings did increase from 2018 to 2020. And similarly, civilian killings, as you can see, and armed forces killings. So this is pre and post. Similarly here, the blue line indicates civilian killings, the orange militant, and the grey one armed forces killing. So violence is present, ever present. Because of the abrogation of Article 370, the aspiration of the terrorists, which are backed by Pakistan, and even after the current scenario of Afghanistan, which has emboldened Taliban-like organizations to have their way in Kashmir. So, there are certain key players in Kashmir. First is Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front and the Hizbul Mujahideen. Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front wanted the area which belonged of Kashmir, which were with India and which were with Pakistan, to come together and form a separate independent Kashmir. In the 1990s, they were one of the main players of the mass exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. The inclination of Kashmir during the 1990s towards the Union of India actually was more Pakistan biased after the brainwashing, the militant approach by Pakistan towards India. And now it has gone down. JKLF, it now says that it is a secular organization. Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammad, and there are certain moderate and extremist groups in Kashmir. Moderate group wants a peaceful solution to the issue. Extremists cannot make their own narrative. They either want, through violent means, to be independent. Some want to be integrated with Pakistan. The problem with Kashmir here is there is no single narrative. Some want to be independent, some want to be integrated with Pakistan, some want to be integrated with India. This is the entire issue. Until and unless all are brought together on a single table to talk about the issues, which does not include legitimizing any organization as a diplomatic organization, as a legitimate organization to come to the table and they can have their way with such what has happened with Taliban. This is not what I am trying to say here. I am just trying to say that many other groups, especially the legitimate groups, the democratic groups which have democracy in their minds for Kashmir and for the entire India, they should come together. People who talk with guns cannot understand the diplomatic words. So as you can see, Kashmir highlights here, terrorists affiliated with LET, Lashkar-e-Taiba, have been neutralized in Srinagar. And when the fresh wave of violence is increasing in Kashmir, this is a good news. Let's move forward and talk about when an all parties meet happened recently earlier this year. It was a step in the very right direction when the government of India talked about a peaceful situation to prevail in Kashmir, and no party in this conference had a maximalist position. They did not ask for statehood. Statehood was not on the table back then. Statehood was not a question, although some parties said that it was a constitutional humiliation which has been conducted in Kashmir, because of which the legitimacy and the basic premise of those parties existing, it extinguished by the abrogation of Article 370, but still it was a very good, a positive mood and a positive move, both was prevailing. Let's move forward and talk about the challenges, many challenges. These challenges are something that actually pose the greatest of the greatest challenge in India's internal security right now because of what is happening in Afghanistan and what is happening in the eastern region. I'm talking about China over here. First is the political nature of Kashmir. Political nature of Kashmir is very heterogeneous. There is no single narrative. The diversity is immense. So immense that political ideologies give rise to militant approaches. First is that. External factors, Pakistan and China. China is trying to build pressure on India through the help of Pakistan. China is itself present in the regions of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, and it is trying to have Pakistan as its strategic asset against India. Quality of communalism. Now, what is happening in Kashmir will be reverberated in the entire Indian scenario. The polity will be played on communalism, one group against another, one religion against another, because the killings have been without any mistake. Can be said that people were killed on the basis of their religion. And this is what the group has done. So this will of course be filtering down to other states. Next is economic backwardness is a challenge itself. Whenever the youth is unable to be employed in productive means, they will be employed in unproductive and militant means by actually inducting them through the help of materialistic provisions into different groups, so that although they might have a threat to their life, they are proving to be an unwanted element in the society. Still, if they are getting money from militant groups, they will be ready to pelt stones at the army. They will be ready to become militants. They will be ready to bear arms. And issues with counter-insurgency operations are such that civilians most of the time have to pay the price of counter-insurgency operation. And counter-insurgency operations are very difficult to carry on if the regional parties don't see eye to eye with the central government. Let's move forward and talk about the way forward. It's something that will not be achieved overnight. It has to be consistent with policy, with integration, with dialogue. First is integration of parties, like the All India parties meet with Kashmir happens. Similar meetings need to be occurring in every 2 to 3 months, like that, so that proper approach can be developed. A congruency in approach can be developed. Again, we have diversity. Diversity should not occur in the form of bane. Diversity should be there, heterogeneous opinions should be there, but none of the opinions should come out in the form of armed rebellion. Look beyond short-term political gains is what is for the political organizations. A permanent solution is the need of the hour, because a lot of expenditure is going in the defense sector, and of course a lot of human resources are being sacrificed. Employment is needed. Employment can be done only when there will be investment. How can any investment be safe in such a volatile area? So it's a loophole in which the government is stuck in. How can an area be economic forward when investments which are not safe there none of the private organizations will be ready to invest any human resource, any financial resource in such region. So employment is needed, productive employment to the youth of Kashmir. Many policies are also there. Moving on, this I have already covered along with employment. Okay, so let's talk about our question. With respect to The political structure of Jammu and Kashmir, diversity is a boon or bane? We have to comment in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.